The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
Elbows Out has really impressed me so far this season, going through the multitude of tracks they have, and after 60 minutes of nighttime Daytona last week, we're kicking things off with a classic track of all classic tracks this week. Who can take on Paul Nye Sr.? Who can take on the greats in GTP? Is there going to be any luck found for the return of Eric Mack? There's 1,000,001 questions to answer this week, and I have the answers for none. But the one thing I can answer is that this track is fun here nestled in the countryside. There's Ferraris running, so you know the Tifosi will show up, and it's going to be a great run. Welcome, everybody, here to Elbows Out Racing League. Some great multi-class racing coming up for you. 60 minutes around this beautiful Monza track, the traditional track with the chicanes. No old running of the oval, even though I think that would be fun. The league admin did not like when I said, hey, let's run the ovals. They shut me down on that. So none of that to be found. It's just going to be some great hardcore 60 minutes of racing. Going to be myself, Brad Dalton, up here in the booth, and I am joined by Andre, as always. Andre, sir, good evening. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Looking forward to some racing here at Monza. Like you said, it's a classic track. It's been around for quite some time, and it's a very unique track. A lot of wide open straightaways. There's going to be a ton of opportunity for slipstream, but then you've got multiple heavy braking zones. And I'll tell you, if chicanes aren't your forte, this is not going to be your track, because pretty much every single corner on this track is a chicane, save for a few right-handers that are, as you see right there, a bit of a sharp then sweeping right-hander that brings you on home to the start-finish line. But it's a unique track. You really don't see a lot like it. It is loved by some, hated by a few, but overall, always puts on an interesting product.
You can say that again. I have to ask the $1,000,000 question. Why would you hate this track? That's the one thing I don't get. And maybe that is a me issue, but I don't hate this track. It tends to be one that I think most drivers just, I think it doesn't get enough laps turned by most as they deserve. They could do more on it, but at the same time, it's a track that really, if you're just not careful on it, you're going to have a bad time. That's the best way I know to really explain it, is that I don't think enough drivers really appreciate its simplicity, but the amount of challenge that it brings to the table.
It does, and it's going to be interesting too, because with this being a multi-class race and having a lot of different manufacturers, different sports cars, different prototypes, they've all got their own attributes. They have different handling, different top speed, different torque. And whatever cars have the best top-end speed, whatever cars have the gear ratio for the best top speed, those are going to be the cars that are going to be finding success tonight. Because there is, again, so much wide open, long straightaways on throttle. And I'm not really up to date with a lot of these manufacturers. I don't know which one of these are the fastest in a straight line, but I'll tell you, we're going to find out one way or another.
That we are, and right now I am showing Cody Peredato is the fastest car on track. I've got him as a GT3 Pro. He's definitely a GTP, so we'll get that fixed up here before the race runs, and get him into the appropriate class, because yeah, he's definitely not a GT3 Pro, even though that says that. So yeah, don't believe what you see there at all. We'll get everything sorted out and ready to party as drivers are finishing up their run through in these qualifying sessions. My question on the day is going to be who will end things up. Eric Mack kind of messaged me after the stream last week and said, hey, I just need more prayers pre-stream. I need more coming through. The skill issue is not really what's hitting me. I'm not getting it. I need you guys to give some help. And to Eric Mack, I say now, I have nothing to offer. I don't know what to offer you there, because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. And seeing some very, very close lap times here. Again, 0.008 of a second between Eric Mack and Colin Bourdon. It is going to be interesting, especially, with the lap traffic and everything. If you look at this track, Brad, it is a very narrow circuit. There is no runoff pretty much anywhere. And if you get up to lap traffic going into one of these chicanes, you're going to be having a bad time. That's something these guys got to think about all night long. 60 minutes is going to be quite a few laps here at Monza, especially for the GTPs. Lap time's not super long, not the biggest circuit in the world. So there'll be a lot of traffic tonight, as there generally is. But I think, qualifying track position may not be quite as important here as it generally is, Brad. Just because this race is going to have so many unknowns, I think we're going to see a lot of overtakes, a lot of passes. If you don't qualify too well, I wouldn't fret it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's tons of passing opportunities up and down the track. So if they play their cards right, as you said it best there, definitely anything is possible coming through. I'm definitely really excited to see how the drivers handle this track, because again, this is a track that I started out my motorsport career sort of fandom outside of the world of NASCAR, where I knew as a Formula One fan. So Monza, of course, a very infamous Formula One track that tends to be really good. So we'll see how they do when all things are said and considered. Coming through, bringing things around a little bit further here. We're following right now one of the McLarens that are getting their way down this track. This is Parker Chiapuzzo, and I gotta say, for Parker, looking to have a good time going around. Zach Tebow just now exiting the pits, it looks like, and Kylan Bruce is out and about in that Porsche 992. So a few drivers leaving it right to the line to get a lap in, which, I mean, is always a decision. Maybe not the best decision, but it's a decision nonetheless. I don't know about you, but usually I like to try to get my laps in a little bit early, but it depends on how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, getting the lap time in early could be a benefit, or maybe they're just waiting for some cloud cover, seeing if the track temp changes a little bit. Who knows? Maybe they just want to see where the other guys fall in line as well, getting late lap times in. But either way, qualifying does conclude. With the overall poll, it looks like going to go to Cody Peredato, 135.031. Colin Bourdon, second place, 135.05. So very, very close lap times. Eric Mack only about 100th of a second back from him. But going back to the GTs, it looks like the pros and the amateurs a little bit mixed up here. Martin Merkva, the fastest GT pro, or GT amateur, I should say, with that red plate. He is going to be at P12. And then right behind him, you got a pro, followed by another amateur, and then another pro. So We've seen the pros and the amateurs get a lot of similar lap times. They've been mixed up in the running order quite a bit this season. I think we're going to see more of that tonight.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later because there's been some discussion in the back end about how to handle that sort of pro-am mix-up and different things with that. So I think there will be some discussion to be had with that as we go through. Let's get the official grid pulled up here as everyone is lining up, and it is a short pace lap coming out, so that is going to make things fun. Of course, you heard Andre go over that grid, but we'll pull it up one more time just to make sure that everyone is in the loop of where it's at. So grid as it stands, it is Cody Peridotto, Colin Bourdon, Return of the Mac, Zario, Bechtel, Nerney in your top 6, and then top end Garcia, Kennedy, Carey, and Hibbs in GTP. In GT3 Pro, Merkva, Tanzius, Rich, Panero, and Murphy. Only 5 showing up there because Paul Nye Sr., Tyler Stanek, Brian Metterly, and Chris Stewart did not qualify. Some of them required not to qualify, of course. And then in GT3 AM, Wilson, Chiapuzzo, Tebow, Ondera, Hemperly, and Grady. Your top 6. From there, it's Milke. Wow. I took a nap before the broadcast, can't tell, and I am very clearly feeling it. Cardona, Bruce, Parker, Dalston, Perkins, Fernandez with Scott Fisher not qualifying. So this should be a good run from everyone. My prediction, just because I love to do it, Eric Mack, Return of the Mac, is the winner today.
Well, it's I would say it's a fair prediction, but in this league, it has been proven time and time again, you can't really predict anything. It's been a chaotic league as far as how these races have played out. Sometimes pit strategy shakes things out. Sometimes the drivers just, figure the track out. They turn on the afterburners and they surprise us with their pace late in the race. And sometimes, and we don't hope for it to happen, but sometimes the carnage does set in. We see incidents, accidents that are going to happen naturally when you have this many cars and this much competition. So it's tough to predict, but, I am going to go against you, Brad, with a prediction. I think I'm going to say that Colin Bourdon is going to take the win tonight in GTP overall. And as for GT red plates, I'm going to take Tanzius. But either way, we'll have to wait and see. Only Father Time will tell in 60 minutes who's going to take these checkered flags as we are behind the pace car, rolling down the back straightaway into that infamous right-hander. Very difficult corner, Brad. It starts out so tight, heavy into the braking, and then it widens up. It sweeps out, and finding the right throttle point to get back on and maintain your racing line without drifting up too far, I've always found that really difficult. In every game, in every simulator, and even in real life, it seems that it is an issue that drivers tend to have. A tough part of the track, but not so tough when you're pacing. Across the line, we are going to go, and we are underway. The green flag is out for elbows out here at Monza, and we're going to go 2, maybe 3 wide down into the chicane for the first lap, and it looks like a deep, deep send, and it's too deep. He's down into the midfield. He's going to have to go through the barriers there, which luckily are not solid. Eric Mack is going to maintain his pace, but he does have to get a bit of a slowdown there, I would assume, Brad, a big slowdown.
Oh, yeah. Eric Mack very clearly missing the start going there, drops back a bit more and has things going back in the background. GT3s have made it through the first couple of corners. Well, at least as best as they could, they've gotten through and around as they bring their way down here into the first couple of corners. Eric Mack again up front under pressure here in the GTP category as he is trying to fight off Zach Nerney, going through side by side and doing a fairly decent job of holding it wide through the first and second Lesmos. Don't go 3 wide, guys. Back in the background, that is going to be, I believe, Bob Carey or or Wyatt Kennedy that is spun, but 3 wide, we keep it down the hill towards the Ascari chicane. You can't do 3 wide into Ascari, guys. Please don't do 3 wide into Ascari. As Nerney leads, Bechtel tries to squeeze. Mack is going to not give the room. Coming around, coming through. Hold on one more time through Ascari. Now it's the run back down the backstretch towards that infamous Parabolica. And, well, guys, if 3 wide wasn't enough for that, let's put Eric Mack topping and Garcia 3 wide for Parabolica. Just make it a bit worse here. Again, that tightening, sort of tricky little sweep, and Eric Mack will run it wide here in the beginning. He's going to try to hold on, and Eric Mack dropping all the way down the order into P number 6 before it's all said and done. Down the straight, first lap is done. I don't want to forget about these GT3s, though, as they come through Parabolica the first time, and it is Ian Tanzius trying to chase down Martin Merkva for the lead in GT3 Pro.
Yeah, they are going really close out of the corner. They're going to be bumper to bumper. As for the amateurs with the green plates, it is Kylan Bruce in the 54, leading the way by a substantial gap, so not missing a battle there as we follow along with these pros. Martin Merkva leading the way into the chicane, but really deep send from Tanzius there brings him to the bumper, and he's going to keep that distance that he gained. He's not going to really fall off coming out of the chicane. Seems like that Porsche is really good under braking. That could be a huge benefit.
It definitely could. As they bring things around, we'll get your full screen here of all competitors there on the left-hand side as we go. Hard to believe we're only 2 or 3 minutes into this race because these guys are racing like it's the final lap already. You can see somebody has had some major offs there on the side. We'll go back and get some replays here in just a few minutes. And I do want to say, I've heard the comments. Dirt, you've also called me out on this, Andre. You've called me out on it quite a bit. We will not use the replay stinger near as much to find moments. We'll make sure we get you the best of both worlds balances going through. So it's something, it's an art form, and Corey, granted, really has the art form down. I'm getting better at it, so we'll make sure we get things going here as we come through. We're following Zach Nerney right now through Parabolica, who is being chased down by Ben Bechtel, trying to find a bit of time on him if he can. And let's hop on board with Bechtel here, because Bechtel is absolutely flying. Cody Perodato, no surprise, first lap in as we go around and continue this through. Ben Bechtel hard on the brakes into the first chicane, and you see just gains a little time, loses a little time as they go through.
Yeah, it's going to fluctuate, obviously, as is the nature of a chicane, and as is the nature of having different manufacturers. You're going to see those gaps fall apart, come together, and overall they're going to even out, and it'll be some good racing. But down into the quick left-right complex, I always struggle to even call that a full chicane, Brad, because you take it so quickly. You carry so much momentum. It is a chicane, but the way you drive it is very unique. They're going to head down into this double right-hander, a little bit of banking in those corners, Brad, and I always really, really loved those corners and the banking that they have, because you can carry so much speed, and when you hit them right, you feel like Superman. You feel like you're driving a rocket ship. But if you miss it, and if you go over that banking into the sand trap, you are going to have a bad time. It's high risk, high reward, and I'll tell you what, it is just another feature that makes this track what it is, makes it so great. Battle for the GTP overall, though, is not just between these two. As we go to the overhead cams, we can see this battle for third. I want to point out Eric Mack and Drew Zerio, these two drivers, and Benjamin Bechtel as well, these 3 drivers, at the start of the race, made a little bit of contact, especially Eric Mack and Benjamin Bechtel in that 28. They were really door slamming down the straightaway, making each other's presence known. Obviously, I don't think it was anything too serious. They weren't really trying to wreck each other, just getting aggressive with it. And that battle is not over because they are staying really close together. And this is what you're going to see, Brad. You're noticing all of these cars in their own little packs, right? They're sticking together. The battles aren't really breaking up because that slipstream just brings them back together. You might gain a little bit in the corner. You might pull away a little bit, but then you get to that straightaway and it just pulls you right back together. And it's going to keep these guys close. They're not going to have a whole lot of breathing room away from the competition.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Monza, is that it's such a simple track. I mean, it's 11 corners in all. Some people dispute a couple of the corners if they're actually corners as we go through the first variante here. Again, with the Porsche being chased down by the Corvette behind. keeping company there, trying to give a bit of challenge. Patrick Rich and Daniel Pinero battling it out here, going through, continuing to put some pressure on each other as they come around here and bring it through. It's so amazing to me just to see how quickly these guys run, and really, we're going to see things close up pretty quick. This is not going to be like what we've seen through the first half of the season with Daytona, with other tracks. This is going to continue to, ebb and flow a little bit, but I do expect it to close in quite a bit more on the season as they go. This is going to be probably super competitive. Now, of course, next week we have Le Mans, which is a whole nother race in and of itself, I must say. So Le Mans, you'll really start to see things spread out a little bit. You'll see things get a little bit different, but here you're going to see things stay close and competitive because it is just that easy to keep things together. Checking back in here with Eric Mack. We're getting into lap traffic now. So this race will never be the same as it is at this moment, as Eric Mack has worked through. Cody Perodato taken off by 3.3 seconds in the lead here, checking in with the current race leader, 3.3 seconds the lead, and has said, you know what, guys, adios, see you later, and I'm not going to think about it again.
Well, he's going to try to do it that way, but I think he'll be thinking about it again soon. That traffic is going to be something they're all going to be dealing with quite a bit, but a huge walk away currently for Cody Perodato, 3.2 seconds the difference, although Colin Bourdon does have the overall fast lap of the night behind him. So we know he's got some speed. He could potentially reel him in. We are 8 minutes into this event already, 52 minutes remaining. These guys have a lot of breathing room. We're a ways away from any sort of pit stops, pit sequence. Right now, all they need to focus on is saving their equipment, making the right moves, and clicking off their laps. But this battle right here, I believe this is going to be Drew Zario in that purple machine. I could be wrong. I'm getting a little bit of blurry feed here. It's kind of hard to tell, but battle for 8th, Matt Top and Dwight Hibbs, Bob Carey. So no, I was indeed incorrect, but they are really going for it down the straightaway with the slipstream into the chicane. I really don't think we're going to see this group get separated too much over the course of the night, Brad.
We're really not, and that's the thing I kind of like about it, too, about Monza, is that things are going to stay really, really close and competitive. It does make things a lot of fun as they go here around. Bob Carey, of course, up here in the front, also trying to back in the back, trying to put in a little bit of pressure on Dwight Hibbs for P9. Ben Bechtel, Matt Top, and Aiden Garcia have closed up as we have Daniel Pinero now facing the wrong way around. We'll see if we can get a quick replay of what happened to him as he is in a very scary part of the circuit, I have to say. Maybe not ideal there out of Ascari, and well, he's out of Ascari, so I think we already know what happened to him. Let's go back and find that replay here very quickly. And well, here's what happened to him coming out of Ascari. He goes down, comes around, and rear tires just break traction. Nothing he could do on that one. Rear tires just completely giving up before he could get things going.
Yeah, once that thing snapped around, aerodynamics were lost, and not a lot that he could really do. Into the Armco barrier, he did a great job not letting that thing bounce back up into the track. He got on the brakes, kept it locked up, didn't pull out in front of anybody. Handled it about as good as anybody could, but unfortunately that is going to be significant damage, and it is going to be something that will have to maybe sit in the pit box a little bit longer than everybody else to get that fixed up, because this is a track where aero damage is going to slow you down. If your car is creating extra drag down these straightaways, you can kiss any chance of a win or a good finish goodbye. So I would say this is a place where getting that damage fixed up is paramount. More lap traffic for the GTP leader. Cody Perodato working his way through some GTs. Currently 99 degrees on the track, 74 in the air, but that track surface pretty dang warm there, Brad, and I gotta wonder, maybe that contributed a little bit to that GT3 spinning out.
Oh, it definitely did, because when the drivers were running through practice, that alone was something they were complaining about. None of them were happy with the temperature of the track. In practice, it was over 100 degrees. I think it was like 115.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Big incident in the back of the pack there. Somebody hard into the Armco barrier, parts of that car flying all over the place. Cars still scattering. One of the GTPs is collected. Not entirely certain who that was. I go to my live scoring and timing.
Tim Wilson, Kyle O'Grady. Here is your replay on your screen going through. They tried to go side by side out of Ascari, and I'm going to say Kyle collected Tim on that one, and Tim came back and collected Kyle. And see who our GTP was. That's the 31 coming through. There's Eric Mack coming through. So it seems like
they all got through. I was wrong.
Mostly made it through without incident.
They were able to avoid it. I thought I saw one get collected. I was mistaken. So luckily for the GTPs, the downforce and the snappy handling was able to kind of save them some heartache there for sure. But yeah, rough go of it there. A lot of carnage, but it could have been worse. Really, everybody did a great job getting around it and doing what they needed to do. And again, dealing with a lot of traffic, a lot of cars on track, you're going to see these sort of things from time to time. The lead has really stalled out for GTP. Cody Perodato, 3.1 seconds, the difference. That is what it has been for quite some time. Realistically, it's not really fluctuated from that 3 seconds, and we'll see with this lap traffic really starting to get thick, really starting to shake things up. It might be subject to change before we come down pit road, but in the meantime, he's got a comfortable lead. One driver who is not so comfortable, Martin Merkvoet, 0.2 of a second, the difference between himself and second place Ian Tanzius. Ian is currently in the same position that he has been all night long, looking at the rear bumper of Merkvoet, showing a lot of patience in that safety car, no pun intended, playing it safe. I feel like he's had a few opportunities. When we go on board, you'll see he does dive in a little bit deeper. He's a little bit later on the braking, and there's been a few times where I'm watching him and I feel like he's got an opportunity to make a real dive bomb, but I don't think he sees the need to get aggressive this early. If he can just stay with him, there's no need to put yourself in any sort of risk, any sort of danger, and he's just trying to match this pace, and he's been doing it phenomenally. Because for about 15 minutes now in this event, he has been glued to that rear bumper, matching him tire track for tire track. If he can keep doing that, well, then that's pretty much job done. But here comes a GTP trying to make the move, and a little bit sideways. I believe that is our GTP leader, having a little bit of trouble navigating these guys. Cody Perodato, I think he thought he was going to get a 2-for-1 special, Brad, but then he realized he did not have time to get around both of them. So he course-corrected his lane, and in doing so, almost got a little bit squirrely.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely gave it the effort, but doggone. It was interesting to say the least, to see him really try to squeeze that car through there, make it through. He did a great job of being able to navigate it. Maybe not the best thing ever, but, made it through without too much of an issue. Checking back in, though, Martin Merkva and Ian. At this point, Ian, I don't have a lot to say for him at this point because he's just stuck as he tries to go through and come around behind there. Paul Nye has an absolute train of cars behind him. If we look off of the right rear suspension, well, there goes the number 31. That's going to be Zach Nerney going through. Then here comes Drew Zerio coming through just behind. I mean, as he goes down the main straight, he's just got to give way here. Not a lot he can do. He's in third. He's catching up to the top two. And, well, we know Paul Nye, the donut guy, has a lot of pace. No donuts to be found here through the first and second chicanes as he continues along. And we just continue with Merkva and Tanzius bringing things around here. 15 minutes already down in this race as they continue along and go through. Return of Eric Mack up to P3 here with the GT3 Pro battle behind. Checking in on GT3 AMs, I don't want to forget about the AM drivers as they do have some good battles starting to compete. Right here on your screen, you've got first and second place in GT3 AM that are starting to battle a little bit. Separated by about half a second there's a big cook. That is from ninth place. That is Dwight Hibbs, who cooked it into the second Variante and is going to unfortunately be stuck as Well, he's got Wyatt Kennedy coming to give him a little bit of a smooch there on the side. The PlayStation car, the Hertz car, the Pennzoil car, just kind of finding each other there. And, well, that's a painful place to have to just sit and sit and sit and wait to be able to come out as they go through. Let's get a quick replay of that one if we can, because that was an interesting moment to have as they went through. And, well, it all started right here for Dwight Hibbs coming around, coming out, and looks like maybe just a little bit too much inside sausage curb, and then that was all she wrote. Stuck there, and then, as we said, Wyatt Kennedy just coming through. I think a second verse, same as the first.
Yep, just got a little bit squirrely, wrong place, wrong time. But I'll tell you what, for Dwight Hibbs, when he got sideways like that, started to spin out, Brad, that was actually some really good heads-up driving. There is the rare instance where you actually don't want to lock up the brakes. You want to let the car roll. That way it rolls out of harm's way and away from traffic. That's what he did. He got off the brakes. He let it roll backwards into the sand trap so that he didn't get T-boned by the oncoming cars in the chicane. So that was really good spatial awareness. He got it stopped right before the barrier. No damage, just a little bit of time lost. He salvaged that situation really well.
That he did. Change for the lead in GT3 AM here on your screen through the first Variante. Side by side went Kylan Bruce and Parker Chiapuzzo, and in the end, Parker does get the best of Kylan Bruce, and now they go down towards the second Variante. Keep things together there, and a great job for them to negotiate that out. The McLaren versus the Porsche, but they do have Zach Tebow not that far behind, about 3 seconds back. You see just in the back, trying to find a bit of company. I will say the pros and AMs are much more divided this week than they normally are. Usually we see the pros and AMs much more mixed up, but here this week they are pretty well holding station, all things considered, which is probably liked for some, and for others, the AM drivers that we know are quick, they probably wish they were a little bit closer to their pro counterparts, just to have a bit more of that challenge in there. Right now, biggest battle in GTP is going to be Ben Bechtel, Drew Zerio. The battle for P7. Bechtel ahead of Zerio. Down into the first Variante they go, coming through. Where they stop, nobody knows. And, well, Zerio is going to... Oh, Bechtel overcooks it. And Zerio, Bechtel swapping positions. You have to get through those boards. Good job doing that, but Bechtel losing tons of time there. And that is going to be the swap for P7.
So that is going to be yet another victim of the first chicane, which has the sharpest turning radius out of any of the chicanes. So it is the biggest slowdown and one of the most difficult parts of this track for sure. And luckily, I think he slowed down and lost enough time that when he got back on the track, I don't believe he should have been dealt another slowdown. So he could at least get back up to pace and try to gather up what time he has. But checking back in on Martin Merkva and Ian Tanzius. These two still locked at the bumper, a little bit more of a gap. It does seem like Tanzius has lost about 2 to 3 car lengths, but nothing significant. He's still with them, still within striking distance, so we'll keep an eye on him. But overall, so similar in pace. It's fun to watch these two kind of go back and forth with their lap times and see, where each of these cars really excels. But as long as they stay close, it could be a battle determined by the pit sequence, Brad. We're not too far out now. We're 20 minutes into this event. Within the next 10 minutes, I would say we're going to see a lot of cars come down pit road, very busy pit road at that point. And who knows? We've seen the running order get shuffled up quite a bit in the past. And when you come in this close together, who knows?
Yeah, and for those of you unfamiliar with Elbows Out, maybe it's your first time watching, which if it is your first time, thank you very much for being here. Don't let it be the last time. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. And if you're on Facebook, be sure you give us a like there as well. It's genuinely appreciated. On YouTube, we just passed 1,600 subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,700. Just need a little bit of extra help in order to get there as we continue along here. For those of you unfamiliar with Elbows Out, the pit stop rules are as follows. You are required to take 4 tires on your pit stop. That is different than other classes where, maybe they'll just say you need to pit in for fuel and do a limited fuel load. Elbows out requires a 4-tire pit stop somewhere in this 60-minute sequence. Where you do it is your decision entirely. You could wait and do it on the final lap if you wanted to. However, 60 minutes, 1 pit stop for tires. We know you're going to be in the box about 35 seconds at least. So when you do that is all important.
It absolutely is. And luckily for these drivers, this is a pretty straightforward pit road. It's a straight-on entry and a straight-on exit, which is not a luxury you're going to get at every single track. Sometimes it's a little bit complicated, so it should be simple enough. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to take what amount of fuel, who's going to take tires, who's not. Time will tell. 38 minutes remaining as we follow along with a bit of battle here between Wilson and Perkins. And that is going to be for 9th place in the amateurs, but still a battle for points nonetheless. Down this long straightaway, you can see that slipstream effect pulling them together. A GTP back in the distance. It's not going to be in the distance by the time they get out of this chicane. Yeah, he's going to have to try to navigate him into this next set of corners. Not ideal. Shea Perkins doing a great job staying on the bumper here. Not much of a battle for the lead in this division. It is still Kyle and Bruce with a 3.7 second lead over Zach Tebow. And Hemperly going to be P3. There goes that GTP. Makes a flawless move. Gets around him. On his way he goes. And again, look at how much input there is on the steering wheel. Now, I know these guys have an option for, the steering ratio and what steering box they use. Looks like this driver in particular, Brad, really cranking on that wheel.
Yeah, riding on board here with Shea Perkins because I was curious just to see how things feel for Perkins back here in the back, and it doesn't seem like ideal, all things considered, continuing the battle. While we've been watching this battle, it looks like Kyle O'Grady has had a moment and unfortunately is sitting in the pits. Let's go find what happened to Kyle O'Grady, and I hate to tell you the answer here is Kyle O'Grady, Ascari chicane, or not Ascari, Parabolica, goes around, hold the brakes, not enough of a brake hold, and a hard tap into the wall. And then that, ladies and gents, was all it wrote for him. And then we go back, it looks like Ethan Murphy here has had maybe a little bit of a moment, and that is going to be through the second Variante, just having a little bit of a scare, but able to get caught up. And we'll go back to live pictures with Ethan Murphy. Ethan Murphy down in P31 overall, last place in the GT3 Pros. Not having the best of times, not having the worst of times, I'll say.
Yeah, sometimes a boring race is a good race. As long as you're getting good points and you're staying out of trouble, it may not be action-packed, it may not be highlight reel worthy, but you need a good, calm race every now and again. And that is exactly what he's got right here now. Not so calm. This driver here getting off into the kitty litter not once but twice now in that black GTP. Not exactly the ideal racing line, but I think at this point, Brad, they're dealing with the high track temp. They're dealing with tires that are starting to go away. The handling conditions for drivers like Drew Zerio in this 860, they're going away. The car's handling a little bit worse.
It's getting a lot worse, and it's all about this weather. Again, we check in. Still 96-degree track temp, better than what they had in their practice session, and even in qualifying. Qualifying, it was still over 100, but, I don't know if you've ever tried to do anything with 96 degrees, but I'll tell you right now, sending all of the pressure, all of the challenges that you have here in these cars down through and battling it out, it's not ideal, especially when you're trying to go wheel to wheel like Nerney and Garcia are right now, and your tires are just screaming hot because they're not enjoying what you're asking them to do in this track condition in these temperatures. It kind of doesn't matter what you want. It's just going to be such a hard time as they bring it through and continue around here. Hard on the brakes they go, working their way past the Lamborghini there. I believe that was Zach Tebow, who is in second in GT3 potentially, as they go through and around. Not a lot of Lamborghinis to be found in the love of GT3, which is surprising because I figured the Lamborghini would get a bit more love in the GT3 category, but it's a challenging car to drive, I'll say that. Meanwhile, this Acura of Aiden Garcia is still trying to chase down Zach Nerney, and that has opened the door for Matt Toppin, so all of a sudden, we have a 3-car battle for P4 in GTP that we'll have to keep our eyes on for the next little bit.
Yeah, we're going to have to definitely follow along with this battle because these two, no strangers to each other. They've been kind of following in each other's tire tracks for a while now. And again, it's going to be all down to the pit sequence, I think, for a few of these battles. This track does have passing opportunities, a lot of opportunities for overtake, but it also does reward defensive driving. If you can get into the chicane just a little bit lower, take a defensive line, you're going to do a good job keeping your position. Side by side, a little bit of a lap traffic for a pick right there. They're going to swap positions just momentarily right on the bumper. That was a close call. Still got the GT3 in front of them. That's going to slow them down slightly. The battle is not over. They're going to swing wide around the outside of this corner. And they did a great job navigating them there, but that was a scary moment for sure.
That it was. Matt Toppin does get the best of Aiden Garcia, at least for now, I'll say. So let's keep our eyes on this and see what Aiden Garcia can find as they continue along. Just losing a little bit of time here. 33 minutes left to go in this race. Hard to believe we're already halfway race distance. And pit stops have started fast and furious, at least for the GT3 AM drivers. They have started to really pit in. Everybody except for your top 4 in GT3 AM have been into the pits. So they are continuing to find their time and go through. And tell you what, let's run down position-wise where we're at here as we go half race distance. And let's find our leader here, Cody Perodato, because Cody Perodato currently with a great time getting up to the back of Ian Tanzius there, going past that 059 Porsche safety car and down into the first Variante. Great on the brakes, brings it through. But this is your overall leader by 4.5 seconds on Colin Bourdon. And then from there it is Eric Mack, who has 3rd place for now, trying to find a bit more time if possible. Zach Nerney in P4. Matt Toppin in 5th. We saw Matt Toppin's pass on Aiden Garcia there for 6th place. And then Drew Zario into P7. Ben Bechtel currently running P8. And Ben Bechtel will be the first GTP to blink and go in the pits. Bob Carey in 9th. Wyatt Kennedy, Dwight Hibbs. So half race distance. And for Ben Bechtel, that's about enough time to say I'm done. I want to jump back up here to the leader, though, as Cody Perodato was getting around that traffic, and I thought Cody Perodato was about to have a very bad time, but thankfully is able to navigate without too much of an issue.
Yeah, he saw the one thing you never want to see as the overall leader, and that is the GT3s side-by-side battling for position, because you know they're not going to really be too concerned with giving you space or getting out of your way. They're running their own race. They're trying to get their own points, and sometimes as a GTP driver, you got to swallow your pride, and you just have to take your foot off the pedal and let them sort that battle out before you get back on it. But luckily for him, they did get it sorted out way quicker than they could have. So not a lot of time lost. As a few drivers coming off the pit road. Bob Carey's still in his box. Now he's rolling out. Benjamin Bechtel in that purple GTP was the first off the pit road there of this group. And then you got Chiapuzio with a 29-second stop. That is a pretty solid time. But again, the GT3s going side by side. These two can't get away from each other. Brad, again, battle for ninth. Shea Perkins and Parker Chiapuzio, they are going to be right there with one another through the chicane. Who is going to give any ground? Well, neither of them. They both got a good line through there. Whoa, a little bit of a moment there, I think, for one of the GT3s behind them. Got a little bit squirrely, but they gather it up. They're going to stay 3 in a line. Looks like Tanzius comes down pit road, as does Hemperly, Cardona. Looks like a lot of these drivers just wanting to split this race in half. Nothing too fancy on the strategy. And you know what? I can respect it. Is Eric Mack on the outside. You said a moment ago, Brad, you thought the leader was going to have a bad time. Well, I thought Eric Mack was about to be a squashed Macintosh because that was a close call.
Yeah, Eric Mack being very brave there. Paul Nye, the donut guy, back in the background of this battle, losing a little bit of grip when it's all said and done, not having the best of times, not having the worst of times. That seems to be just the sort of story that we're getting here for everyone. We'll pull back up the overalls as we go through. We allow these pit stops to cycle and bring their way around. Everybody deciding when they pit, when they don't pit. And if you're wondering if your favorite driver has pit, the answer is it's a 50-50 shot at this point. Lots of drivers have pit, lots haven't. And I want to jump back here because Daniel Pinero is trying to chase down Ian Tanzius there in P7 in GT3 Pro. The difference is Ian's pit. Daniel Pinero has not, but is still trying to find some time. Colin Bourdon into the pits from P2 in GTP competition. We'll bring things through. Merkva's in, Murphy's in, Matt Toppin is now in as well. So plenty of cars starting to find that, well, 30 minutes is just enough time to let these tires go and to battle it out, because they've decided 30 minutes is where they're going to call the line. Lots of drivers into the pits here, more than I can really keep up with, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough for two people to keep up with everything going on pit road, but Bourdon coming down pit road. He was second place before the pit stop sequence by something to the tune of about 3 seconds. We'll see how that fluctuates. 28 seconds, though. Really great stop. That is among some of the fastest for the GTPs that have taken tires. Toppin is in pit road as well as our GT Pros. Looks like the leader, Merkva, came down. Paul Nye going to stay out. Tyler Stinnett going to stay out. But the overall leaders in that class coming down pit road for the moment. Andrew Parker, Kylan Bruce, still 1 and 2 for the amateurs. But it is only going to be about a lap or two before we see where everybody shakes out. Peredato, Eric Mack did not come down pit road yet, so they're still stretching it out as far as they reasonably can go. Eric Mack seemingly struggling to get on a recovery tour after the lap 1, turn 1 incident. Has just been continually losing time to Peredato. Down pit road with a late swerve. Zachary Nerney hopefully not picking up a speeding penalty there, Brad. That was a huge lockup, and it seemed like a last-minute decision. We'll see how long his stop is.
Yeah, I got to think Nerney was responding to the fact that Peredato, Mack, and Aiden Garcia decided to not pit, and maybe thinking, hey, I get on some fresh Michelins a little bit sooner. I can get a little bit further up the field and get things going and get things moving and grooving a little bit faster here as he goes. He's looking good in the position he's in. He's just, going through. Let's see how long he's in the box, because this is really what's going to tell us where he's at as he's through. He's coming around, and 21.7 seconds in the box. Not a bad time to be found for Nerney as he goes through. Let's check in now with Cody Peredato, who is still running through. I do want to look at his last lap time. His last lap was a 1:37.3, and if we look at GTPs who have gotten a lap in, they are running about 1:36 or so going through. So there is some drop-off on these GTPs when the tires die out. Is it enough to make that much of a difference? I don't think so. Let's see if the race leader, he's holding hard to the right as they go through Parabolica. And race leader, very conservative getting on the brakes there into the pits.
Yeah, it was a little bit of time loss, but I respect it because he doesn't need to get aggressive with the pit road entry. He came in with a 3-second lead over second place, tentatively. Actual second place on track was 16 seconds, but before the cycle, he had a 3-second lead. So you can give up a little bit getting into the pits just to ensure that you don't get a speeding penalty. But if you do get that speeding penalty, you could easily cost yourself the win. So playing it safe, playing it smart. Peredato, the jack stands going down on that prototype. And what is the time going to be? We've seen 30 on the high end, 27 on the low end. And it is going to be on the high end of a stop, so it was a slow entry and a slow stop. Will this be enough for second place to maybe make up some time in this huge gap that he had built up? Maybe that cushion has been used as they come down into the chicane. Maybe we'll go to an overhead, see where everybody else shakes out. 51 seconds overall. Got a GT3 that is nigh behind him. But luckily, Brad, despite the slower stop, despite everything, I believe Peredato did not lose any time to what will provisionally be second place. But at the moment, because he has not come down pit road, because neither of these drivers have, Eric Mack, Drew Zerio, they are the overall leaders. They are really stretching it out on this tire, stretching it out on this fuel. making sure they are taking the overcut option, as is Paul Nye in that number 1 machine. Tyler Sinek yet to come down pit road. It seems like every week, Brad, we get a few drivers that do tend to take the overcut strategy, but I can't say I'm used to seeing Eric Mack do this. This is kind of new territory.
Yeah, Eric Mack very much opting for a different game here. Not sure what's kind of gotten into him, but as we know, Eric Mack not always having the best of times, sometimes having the worst of times. Why is that my thing this week? I don't know, but either way, that is really where we see with them the battle, coming through, and Eric Mack very clearly just wants to do something a little bit different to try to find a little bit of extra time where it's all said and done. Here's the problem I've got for Cody Peredato at the moment, is that it was a slower stop, and the overcut, I think, is more powerful than the undercut in the GTPs because of tire warm-up. I think tire warm-up is genuinely what kind of hurts the GTPs, as Paul Nye, Tyler Stanek, and Chris Stewart are all 3 in that GTP category. They are going to figure themselves out and go through. But Bourdon Nerney continuing to battle as they go through. And I think the problem really is warm-up. It's not necessarily about waiting too late or too soon to pit. It's when you do pit, think about how much time you lose when it's all said and done, because you have to get a lot more comfortable basically being uncomfortable on cold tires. And with the tire changes, it's been long enough now that I think the drivers don't have as much of an excuse to say, I'm uncomfortable, I'm not having a great time, whatever it might be, but they still need to really think about that as they go through and watch that kind of happen here as Bourdon and Nerney have their battle has kind of stalled a little bit. Tyler and Paul Nye, as Paul Nye is off the track there. What has happened to Paul Nye, the donut guy? Very clearly a first Variante moment, and that has hurt him just enough.
Yeah, that is going to, I believe, hand the division lead over for the moment from Paul Nye. So we'll see if he can make a bit of a recovery. He still has yet to pit, I believe. And, you talked about the tire warm-up, and I'll finish my point after we take a look at the instant replay here on PTR TV. Let's take a look at what happened to Paul Nye. He was in the lead for that division and then just came in really hot there, Brad. I mean, that wasn't even close. I got to wonder if there was either a hardware issue or if that was just a bit of a brain fart going in a little bit too deep. I know I've done it on this track a time or two, or a dozen or two. It has been known to happen. Just a weird situation, though, a little bit too deep. And then, of course, those sausage curbs doing their job but not helping his case, getting him spun around. Then he had to get back on the track. But going back to what I was saying, Brad, you mentioned the tire warm-up. On another channel, I cover a Mustang league, and in that league, a lot of drivers do not even take tires when they come down pit road. It's 40-minute races, so 20 minutes shorter than this. They won't even take tires because the amount of time that it takes to get those tires warmed up and get them back to being competitive does not outweigh or is not outweighed by the time that they will gain having fresher tires. It's better just to stay on the warm tires, get out there, and go away. And I believe in this league, some drivers may have similar mentalities. Not every driver going to take tires, but even among the drivers who do, which I would say makes up the majority, you're right. It is really tough for a lap or two. And I can think back to numerous times this season where somebody has come out of the pits and within a lap or two, they've made a mistake. They've got sideways. They've spun out. It has happened time and time again. Luckily for Peredato, he's kept it under control, and we've not seen any cold tires or cold moments. But it's known to happen, and it is something these guys got to keep in mind.
It is, and the one thing that I think is really interesting that I don't think Mac has thought about is the pace difference. Every lap he stays out, he's losing a second and some change a lap as he goes through. Cody Peredato, last lap, 136.8. Last lap for Eric Mack in the lead, a 137.9. So, I mean, he continues to lose pace. And the thing is, he's only 35 seconds up front. You know, if we keep looking through this field and we look at the class gap, it's about 50 seconds in the box. So he's coming out P4 right now. If you look at this top 5 interval there on the battle for GTP, it's not helping him to stay out at this point. Him and Andrew Parker are the only 2 people that are currently staying out. And I think at this point, they're only staying out for the sake of staying out. I don't really know a better reason for them to be out there when it's all said and done. Ethan Murphy catching my radar as he has had an off there through the Ascari chicane, or through Parabolica. Wow, why am I? Or no, that is Ascari. I know my track. I know Monza. Come on now. As he goes through, and, well, front bumper cover missing off of that Porsche, and that Porsche is going to need braces. Well, actually, it's not a T-Rex, so maybe no braces needed, but definitely needs a new front bumper.
Yeah, and again, as we've said, this is a track where aerodynamics are really going to matter, not just for the straightaway, but getting that thing to navigate the corner and not feel like an absolute tank getting through those chicanes. You want the body panels to be where they need to be. Eric Mack going to finally come out of pit lane, not quite able to get up to speed in time to clear that GT3, so now he's going to have to immediately pass him back, which is not ideal, but luckily he didn't make any crazy moves, didn't try to get too aggressive, staying ahead, which could have been potentially disastrous. But I'll tell you what, through everything, Eric Mack has gained a lot on that overcut. You called it, Brad. You said the overcut might be a little bit stronger. Well, Eric Mack has overtaken Bourdon. He's overtaken Zerio. He's overtaken everybody who was throwing their hat in the ring versus Perodato. And now, yes, it's a 6-second gap. That's quite the amount of time to overcome, but he's gained overall position, which is going to be valuable points.
Okay, you know what? I said that he was making a wrong decision. Very clearly, there's a reason that I'm up in the commentary booth and not a driver and not a strategist, because very clearly Eric Mack knew what he was doing there and was able to get that one all together and said and done, and in a beautiful setup here as he goes through. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a moment and we are going to do some temporarily-ish loud engines. And I tell you what, Dirt, since you are back, sir, Andre, I call you Dirt so much that sometimes I forget to actually call you Andre when it's all said and done. But Andre, since you are here, I don't just call him Dirt for any crazy reason. It's literally just because that's sometimes the nickname we see, and I see that nickname back and forth so much. Little behind the curtain peek. But Andre, sir, since you are here, why don't you tell me who we should ride on board with for a lap or so?
Tell you what, let's go on board with Martin Merkva. He's 0.6 of a second back from Tyler Sinek and trying to retake his division lead. Let's follow along with that battle.
All right, so we are going to do a little bit of onboard here, some temporarily loud engines, brought to you by Whiplash Simcams here. And stick with us. We'll bring you back for the final few minutes of this race. We'll be back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the time there. Thank you for the temporarily loud engines, brought to you by Whiplash Sim Camps here on this Elbows Out production. It is halfway through the season. We're at Monza, running through with about 13 and a half minutes left to go. Anything is possible at the time right now, though. What is possible up in the front? Well, Cody Peredato currently has an 8-second lead on Return of the Mac, Eric Mack, going through, and Ben Bechtel has just been given a meatball flag. Matt Toppin is showing his crash. Something major has just happened that we have missed right as we came back. So we're going to do something I don't like to do, but we're just going to do a big jump cut right here because very clearly I have missed something somewhere that has started absolute carnage. And we're going to see if we can find it here. And, well, there's Ben Bechtel. Ow! That's what did that.
Oh my goodness. Oh no! Oh, Bechtel just getting pile driven from downtown. That was a huge impact. Off the bumper of a GT3, the track narrowing up. 3 cars going for the same real estate. Somebody's got to give, and then just full throttle ARCA brakes. No amount of grace given there. That was just wide open.
That was Matt Toppin that got involved with that one coming through. And then Christopher Ondera was in there as well. That was the other GT3 that was involved. It was Christopher Ondera, Ethan Murphy, Ben Bechtel, Zach Tebow was in this one too. Zach Tebow right here, the Lamborghini. I thought he got away with it. Clearly, I was mistaken. That is the first major incident that I think we've seen the entire race.
Yeah, that was really the first big incident. We've seen a few single car spins, some drivers missing the chicanes, but that was honestly one of the hardest hits we've seen all season. Very unfortunate. And again, when you have a track this narrow, it's almost bound to happen at some point. Unfortunately, happening late in the race when none of these guys are really going to have a chance to get those cars back out there. So they're going to have to take whatever points they get. Sitting on pit road now, a few of those drivers and a couple of them taking the tow back to the garages. They've had enough for one night. Cody Peredato is still leading the way in GTP. Tyler Stanek in that 33. I think he's trying to do that last first challenge, Brad. He was one of the drivers who did not qualify alongside Paul Nye, but he has worked his way up to the point. I do believe he's come down pit road. So this is a legitimate lead, and Martin Merkva was within half a second. That gap is extended to 1 second overall. So not only did he get to the lead, but he is, without a doubt, the fastest GT3 on the track at the moment. Now he's throwing a little bit of pocket sand at the competition. Is that legal, Brad, trying to cloud their vision with a little bit of pocket sand?
I mean, it's not ideal, but let's be honest. If you're going to throw some pocket sand, you might as well make it count here. As Stanek Merkva and Paul Nye Sr., or Paul Sr. Nye, Paul Nye the Donut Guy. We've got plenty of nicknames to be found here. But Stanek is going through and trying to chase down top 3 in GT3 Pro, currently battling it out, separated out by 2 seconds between 3 cars. Well, this is a battle to the end. 10 minutes left to go in this race as they go. And I do want to check in GT3 AM. Kylan Bruce currently leading by about 10 seconds in GT3. By 7 seconds in GT3 AM over Emily. Andre, bail me out here. How do you pronounce Emily's last name?
Where is it on screen? I don't even see it.
P2 GT3 AM.
I'm going to say Melky. I'm going to say Melky. It's probably not right. I would guarantee that's not right, but I'm going to say Melky. Again, we do have that form. I do not believe Emily has filled that out. So right now we're kind of just going in blind. And I'm not even 100% sure what the origin of that name would be, so that's kind of stumping me even further. But, we're dumb Americans here. We don't always get it right. But that is why the form exists, and hopefully we can get it right in the future.
I'll send it out to Emily as soon as this broadcast is over, don't you worry, and tell Emily, hey, hey, we don't want to do this again. Also, if any friends or family of Emily are in YouTube chat or Facebook chat, feel free to leave a comment and let us know as well. We do always watch these comments as we go. Big shout outs for Shay in the chat, and then Ben Bechtel getting a shout out from Marissa there in the chat as well. So plenty of love being shown for all of these elbows out drivers. And you know, Andre, I don't keep it a secret. I really love multi-class racing. Whenever Elbows Out approached and asked us to cover their season finale for their last season over at Spa, I made it no secret that I was very excited about that, and I wanted to keep them on the channel for a while. They've been great partners to work with and so much fun. Any sort of ideas they've had, we've been able to kind of bounce ideas off of each other for stream and keep things through. They've been so much fun to interact with and keep things moving. Really looking forward to having them on the channel here into the future as they go. Under 8 minutes to go. As it stands right now, it is Cody Perodato, Tyler Stenick, and Kylan Bruce, your top leaders in all classes. And Cody Perodato, 8.5 seconds up front. At this point, I don't see any traffic around Cody. I think it's just a case of don't mess up.
Yeah, it's just click off the laps. Don't make any mistakes. He's pulling away from Eric Mack. I don't know if Eric has a little bit of damage on that machine. When he did go off the track, he hit those sausage curbs. Could have done something to the underbody. Could have affected the handling a little bit in ways that we don't really see. Or it could just be that, you know, let's call a spade a spade. Cody Perodato has been the class of the field all day long. He qualified on the pole. He has led every single lap that he was not in the pits. And he has continually pulled away from everybody who's tried to challenge him. So if you're Perodato, you don't need to worry too much. You don't need to get too up in your own head. Just, you know, get out there, hit your marks, hit the apexes, maybe even take it easy, back off a little bit. Only 6 minutes remaining. Not a whole lot of racing left, but you can see lap time comparisons there. Lap 31, Eric Mack actually did reel him in a little bit. But then the very next lap, lap 32, loses nearly a second, 8.5 tenths to Perodato. And I got to say, a 136.4 this far into their stint after they pitted, not bad at all. That is a phenomenal lap time for having slightly worn tires. And Eric Mack going a little bit wide there up on the curb, but it's going to be a good points day for Eric Mack. Eric Mack has had a, let's say, eventful season, Brad. He's had the high highs, he's had the low lows. Right now, just having a good points day. Sometimes a boring day is a good day. And ever since that turn one incident, it's been a little bit boring for him. Just out here running his laps and getting his points. Played a little bit of strategy to gain that track position. It was smart. It was well executed. You can't really say enough about his race. It's been a great race. Speaking of good races, for second place in this division, Martin Merkva, Paul Nye, the donut guy. Paul's done a great job, Fred. Ever since he had that little bit of a mishap, he had an off-track excursion. He has caught up to Martin Merkva, and now he's going to get side-by-side on the outside. They're going to touch fender wells just a little bit, kicking up some kitty litter, but overall going to stay bumper to bumper through this next right-hander, high-speed kink corner. And it looks like the run is going to go to Paul Nye. He's got a huge amount of momentum out of that corner. He is on the tow hitch coming into this next chicane. He's going to dive to the outside. Let's see if he can make something happen here. I think he is just a little bit faster than Merkva. A little bit of contact there. Trying to get the inside on the exit. They're going to get sideways. Merkva, big wiggle. He's able to save it, but he got muscled out of the way there, Brad.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, the league's name is Elbows Out, and Paul Nye very clearly getting the elbows out, showing where he's at. While we were watching this, I have some very, very unfortunate news to report here. We're going to jump back. Colin Bourdon, sausage curb going through the Ascari chicane, and big snap, big wiggle, big snap goes through, and Colin Bourdon gone. And then Shea Perkins, this was just behind that as we watched that battle. Sausage curb, and that's what we call a sympathy spin right there. And same impact, same place. And where do they both find themselves right now? Into the pits with just a couple minutes left to go and nothing to be found here. We check back in with Martin Merkva. Martin Merkva now has Chris Stewart battling it out behind. So just a couple minutes left to go here. 3 minutes, 54 seconds, and Chris Stewart with Martin Merkva here is going to continue to battle, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a problem because I think Martin Merkva possibly carrying a little bit of damage after that incident through the Ascari chicane coming through. Is going to try to keep things together, looking pretty decent right now, trying to stay together, and Chris Stewart just needs to keep some pressure on. Doesn't need to do any heroics, doesn't need to do any massive sins, just needs to be patient here and when it matters, and that is going to be the thing that's, well, it's easier said than done, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely easier said than done. As we ride on board, we're getting a good view of this action here. Chris Stewart, Martin Merkva. Martin, again, probably feeling a little bit frustrated after getting muscled out of the way. He gave it everything he had, played some really good defense, but at the end of the day, Paul Nye was just the faster car. He was on the move, and I don't think you could defend that very long. Not with the haymakers he was throwing. So now he's got to try to fight for that podium, stay on that final step. It's not going to be easy, but 2.5 minutes remaining. It's going to be about 2 laps, because when the leader comes back around, they'll have roughly, I think the leader should get the white flag next time. I could be incorrect. But I'll tell you, Brad, the weather conditions have changed a lot throughout the course of this. I mean, we've lost 10 degrees of track temp since the start, and on iRacing, that is not insignificant. That is a huge change in handling. It seems like these drivers have done a good job adapting to it, but just interesting to see.
It really is. That's the big thing, because I kind of noticed, I was like, man, is it getting dark or is it just me? But no, it is indeed getting pretty cloudy here towards the end of this race as they go. So they're continuing to sort of try to make things through. Zach Tebow has now towed to the pits as well and is done and dusted for his day. Martin Merkva, that was, I believe, Dwight Hibbs kicking up a little bit there in the background. Down the inside was our race leader, Cody Perodato. That's a interesting move to make through the first and second Lesmo turns as they go around side by side. He's going to come with Chris Stewart. Martin Merkva is, and Merkva will lose the position to Chris Stewart. Christian Cardona has now also received the meatball flag. Christian Cardona, one of our GT3 AM drivers. So GT3 AMs finding the end of this race challenging. I tell you who's really going to find it challenging right there. Merkva and Stewart. Again, the elbows out into Ascari. I know this is called Elbows Out Racing League, but with a minute left, tell you what, that is a brave decision to be making.
Yeah, definitely brave. And it is getting really dark on the track. I almost feel like there would be some weather rolling in. Oh my goodness. Bit of a tap to the bumper there. He's going to go around the bottom. They are on a carousel here, just completely going back and forth. Oh my goodness. In the last minute of this race, they are just duking it out.
This is going to be ugly going into turn 1. I hope you're aware of that. As they dive down into turn 1 here, side by side, they go hard on the brakes. We're going to come, and no, they're going to get spun. Oh. Merkva is spun by Chris Stewart.
Yeah, you said it was going to be ugly. You called it, Brad. It was 2 drivers that were not afraid to get physical. They were definitely roughing each other up a little bit, and somebody had to give, and unfortunately, somebody did. So they are now separated. They're going to have to finish out their laps, try to salvage what they can. A little bit of a replay here. Just 2 cars coming together. From that angle, it's hard to tell who was coming up, who was going down. Difficult to assign blame, therefore I will not. But either way, we'll just say it was 2 drivers being very aggressive. That we know. But with the clock having run out, we're on the final lap of the event. And this man right here, Brad, has run a perfect race. He, again, qualified on pole, led every lap that was not a part of a pit sequence, and he is looking to get the checkered flag tonight. 6 seconds the gap over second place. He's just got to run through this final corner, down this straightaway for the final time, and it is a storybook night for that 51. He's going to weave back and forth, a little bit of celebratory maneuvering there, and there it is, a great win for that driver.
Cody Peredato with a beautiful win there. Tyler Stenick coming across as well now to get his checkered flag run. Paul Nye Sr. in second, and Chris Stewart is in third. Merkva further back and fourth. I'm sure they will not be the best of friends when it's all said and done. Up in the GT3 AM category, it is Kylan Bruce who will bring things around here for the overall win. Kylan Bruce having a very, very steady day there, up 8 places overall, but able to have a beautiful run there in GT3. I do want to show our top position gainers of the day, because this is always interesting. And, well, what do you know? Kylan Bruce up there on the top with Tyler Stenick, Chris Stewart there second and third, Bob Carey up 5, and Paul Fernandez up 5 positions on the day. But when it's all said and done, that is Kylan Bruce winning your AM category. So that is going to be a majority of our field through. Looks like we're just waiting on a few of our AM drivers to bring it across the line here and get things set up, because it was a great run from everybody to round this out. Monza always delivers great racing. I did good. I didn't say the famous one more corner parabolica line that everyone loves to quote around Monza. I didn't say that. I'm very glad.
Well, now you said it.
Yeah, but I didn't say it in race, so me not saying it in race, I think counts. Oh, come on now. Come on. Give me a break.
I can't do that. Contractually obligated not to, but it was a great race. That was a lot of good battling. Some heavy hits there. Obviously, you don't like to see big crashes, but boy, I'll tell you, we saw some spectacular ones here at Monza, and it was a test of skill. And honestly, we really need to give a shout out to Tyler Stenick taking his overall win in that division. That was a true last to first challenge, and he did it phenomenally.
He did a beautiful job with it here, and let's get our overall results. After 37 laps of racing, it is Cody Peredato who gets the win by 10.1 seconds over Return of the Mac. Eric Mack, the return to second place found. Very, very glad to see that come through for him. And then in third place, it is going to be Zachary Nerney, and Aiden Garcia in fourth, Bob Carey in fifth, Wyatt Kennedy in sixth, Benjamin Bechtel in P7, Matt Toppin in P8, Dwight Hibbs and Colin Bourdon, your top 10 there, with Drew Zario 7 laps down in P11. In GT3 Pro, Tyler Stenick up in P1 with Paul Nye Sr. finding second place, Chris Stewart in third, and Martin Merkva in P4 with, we saw that battle with Chris Stewart. That was a hard-fought battle. Ian Tanzius in P5, Brian Medderly in P6, Patrick Rich in 7th, Daniel Panera will go get some Panera bagels in P8, and Ethan Murphy in P9, and that was all of your GT3 pros this week. In GT3 AM, it was Kylan Bruce in first, Nathan Hemperly in second, Emily Milke in P3. Milk, I'm not sure. We'll figure that one out before next week, I promise. Tim Wilson in fourth, Parker Chiapuzzo in P5, Andrew Parker P6, Zeus Dalston P7, Paul Fernandez, Christopher Ondera, Shea Perkins, your top 10. 14 drivers in this category, a few laps down, and it was Zach Tebow, Christian Cardona, Kyle O'Grady, and Scott Fisher, your 14 GT3 AM drivers that took on the day. Who do we have to chat with us here right now, Andre? Let's see who we can find. Who wants to talk to us? It looks like Zach is a driver that wants to watch or wants to talk here. And then I do see our overall race winner, Cody Peredato. So I think it's only appropriate we talk to Cody, to be honest. If he's going to overall win a race on a great run, we might as well bring him in. Cody, good evening. How are you?
Not too bad. A little tired. That was pretty good. I hope it was good to watch as well. But that was a rough one.
I had a lot of fun with it up here. I won't speak for Andre. I don't like to speak for Andre, but I'll say Andre had fun too. I'm sure he seemed engaged in it. So, Cody, how did you just manage to pull such a gap? I mean, a 10-second gap in GTPs. You pitted early. Eric Mack stayed out. Kind of talk me through your race.
Honestly, after avoiding Mac, kind of throwing it up the inside on turn one, it was managing that gap to Bourdon behind the whole time. He was the only one that was super close. Zach was right behind him, but he had fallen a few seconds back, avoiding all the stuff on the first lap. So after that, it was just I felt I had the pace to stay as far away from him as I wanted to, but I couldn't pull that much. So I was just trying to manage traffic better than he did, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't.
Well, I think you did a good job with it. And I have to ask, with the traffic management, we saw a moment where you were coming through a pretty hard GT3 Pro battle, and you got a little bit of I'm gonna say the line. Someone got their elbows out in a different class. Kind of how do you, as a driver, handle that when those moments happen?
When it comes to deciding whether or not to do the move or not, it's largely based on the gap behind, and if I feel like this is my chance to avoid losing a ton of time or not. Other than that, I try to just make the most high percent moves I can, and not. There was one, I think, in the first Lesmos, I think with some people in near the podium of the GT3 Pro field that got a little bit more bumpy than I wanted to, but I didn't want to lose a ton of time and risk any silly little thing sending me out in the last few laps.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch from up here. And Cody, how is your confidence going into Le Mans next week?
Not very confident. Not any more confident than I was for this week. I've been doing some practice, but I don't have any more time on that track with the updated tire model for these, so it'll be a lot more time putting in before next Wednesday.
Gotcha. Well, Cody, anyone you want to thank or shout out before we let you go enjoy your Wednesday evening?
Thank you guys for putting all this together and broadcasting every week. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Mac for not hitting me in turn 1. So that was it. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome, man. Congratulations on the win, and we'll catch up with you later, okay?
Thanks. Sounds good.
All right. And Andre, we got several drivers waiting. I think, again, it's only appropriate to pull a winner here. I told the AM drivers to get their butts in here, and the AM drivers, it looks like, are getting a little bit shy, but I'm going to let you talk to the Mustang driver, since you are the Mustang aficionado of Tyler.
How you guys doing?
Mr. Sinek, you got a copy.
How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing pretty good, but you're doing even better. You managed to get the almost last to first challenge there. You didn't put in a qualifying lap, started in the back of your division. Somehow or another found your way all the way up front. We were surprised to see you come out of nowhere up in that lead after the pit sequence. And not only that, but once you got that lead, you gapped everybody. You were the fastest GT3 on the track. Just a perfect race. I mean, this track seemed to really suit you. Tell me a little bit about your night.
Honestly, didn't expect it. Monza's not really a strong track for me. I haven't run it much in GT3s, at least recently. I actually had pretty low expectations for this race. I didn't really get to practice much, and only practiced for a little bit before that, and I was honestly surprised to be where I was. I'm fortunate that Paul gifted me the win. He was clearly quicker today. I was just able to hold my gap, and then I was able to hold him off. If it was another 20 minutes, it would have been a different story, but just had a good pit stop, no issues there, took real light fuel, and was able just to stay out of instances. Turn 1 on the first lap was kind of hectic. Had a crazy slowdown and lost a lot of gap there, but I couldn't ask for a better race, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal drive, and I got to ask you, the track changed a lot. When the race started, it was about 100 degrees on the blacktop, and by the time the checkered flag came out, we were looking at something more like 90 degrees, so a 10-degree drop. Did you feel any difference from the start to the end? How was the driving condition?
It felt a little slicker in the beginning, but with all the rocks and everything on the track in the end, I mean, the way the Mustang is, you have like a very small temperature tire window, and if you overheat the tires, it just feels really bad regardless. But as obviously the sun went behind the clouds and the track temp, it really helped me be able to drive the Mustang a little bit harder and able to keep the pace as I was. But it was pretty hectic a couple times. GTPs were definitely difficult on this track. There wasn't a lot of room for everyone. Everyone's just trying to get as much gap as they can, but luckily I was able to stay out of any major instances and really not be my own kryptonite, so I'm grateful for that.
Anytime you can just get a consistent race, not make any blunders, that's a great night. Now, you did give a shout out to Paul Nye. You said that you thought he was faster than you. You two have had some really good battles this season. You've been very close in pace. Do you think we, the viewers, can expect some more awesome battles between you two?
Oh, for sure, and definitely Ian. I really expected Ian to run away with this race, but it looks like he might have had an incident. I haven't gone back and looked at it yet, but I was expecting to honestly be happy in the top 4. Both those guys are just their one lap pace is just phenomenal. So I think the only thing that's helping me right now is being able to just be consistent with my own pace. It might not be the fastest at times, but just keeping the Mustang in a window that I can just, stay out of trouble. So it rewarded me tonight. But Le Mans is going to be a different setup for me. I don't have a lot of experience on Le Mans, so I'm actually going to have to practice that one a little bit. And obviously there'll be a start in the back again, so it should be definitely interesting. More room, but it should be interesting.
That it will be. Well, we thank you for your time, and we congratulate you on the division win. Before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
You guys, your broadcasts are great. It's always look forward to go back and rewatch it up on the big screen. So pleasure racing for you guys, and we love the broadcast. And then shout out to everyone, all my buddies, and shout out to my wife Vanessa for putting up with us. So.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. We're going to let you go celebrate. We'll be seeing you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Smart man to thank the wife. That is always the right decision. Yeah, always the right decision. I tell you what, you took the pro winner. I'm going to bring in the AM winner, Kylan Bruce. Kylan, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Talk me through your race, because it seems like you had a fairly fun one up there in the AM category in your Porsche.
Yeah, so I just kind of took it easy in turn 1 and, just watch out for, the wrecks and, all that kind of crazy stuff, and just kept my pace mainly.
Awesome. Well, Kylan, it was definitely there in terms of pace. I got to ask, though, just out of curiosity, you were one of the earlier ones to pit that we saw, and it seemed like all the AM drivers pit in a bit earlier. Was there a reason you decided to pit a little bit earlier, or was it just kind of, what you were looking to do when you came into the race?
No, I was definitely trying to do, the halfway mark for sure, just so my tires don't, wear out and that sorts of stuff.
Absolutely. And then Kylan, kind of looking at how overall runs, you had very comparable pace to a lot of our GT3 Pro drivers. What kind of, in your head, is the big difference for you between Pro and AMs? And do you think you'll be scrapping it up in the Pros anytime soon?
Pros are definitely faster than me, I would say. But, yeah, I'm not too sure.
Gotcha. Well, Kylan, it was a good run from you. Anyone you want to thank or shout out before we let you go and let you enjoy your Wednesday?
Want to thank friend Paul and my sponsor Nitro, and that's it.
Awesome, Kylan. Well, thanks for taking the time to stop in. Congrats on the win there in GT3 AM, and we will see you next week at Le Mans.
Thank you.
Andre, this has been a fun one. Monza, actually, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and say it's the track. It's the league, let's be honest. Every week, these guys deliver time and time again. Whether it's big crashes, big crazy moments, whatever it might be, there's always good runs from these guys that go through. I'm actually going to just, while I say that, I'm going to go back and see this crash again because poor Ben Bechtel. I don't know what else to say other than poor Ben Bechtel on this one, but it was a fun week this week, and next week it's 60 minutes around Le Mans, a huge track for only 60 minutes. I mean, you're only going to get a handful of laps.
Yeah, so the traffic may not be as congested as it was this week, but you're right. This league does consistently put on a really good show. The GTPs, they put on a good show, but I got to tell you, the GT3s, from the amateurs to the pros, they put on some really phenomenal battles. Going back to the interview with our division winner in GT3, with him giving that shout out to Paul Nye, he's exactly right. You know, there's 3 or 4 drivers that are within tenths or even thousandths of a second of one another, week in and week out, no matter what track they go to. And it's just such great battling. And they have so much respect for each other. You can tell they love what they do. They love racing with each other. And that's the kind of environment that's going to put on good racing. So it is the league, but also Monza's just fun. It's just a ridiculous racetrack. I'm going to say it. It's a little bit crazy. Long straightaways, heavy braking zones. Somebody decided they really, really, really like chicane, so they just slapped a bunch of them on a racetrack, and somehow it works. So overall, it's a great combo. Good league, good track, and overall, fun night for everybody except for the drivers involved in this particular incident we're taking a look at. But even they were probably having fun prior to this.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the worst thing that could have happened on their night, but, you know, it was fun nonetheless. Appreciate everybody tagging along and enjoying their time here with Elbows Out on a Wednesday night. I always love seeing these Wednesday night streams come through. Next stream here on the channel. Again, if this is your first time through, make sure you like and subscribe. YouTube and Facebook. On YouTube, we are looking to chase down that 1,700 subscriber mark. My big goal is to be at 2,000 by the end of the year. We're a quarter of the way through the year. We're pushing it through. We're in a pretty good position. But with that being said, all the way around, you know, next stream's coming up tomorrow. It is going to be the it's Area iRacing. It's their Pro Series, and they are at Darlington. We saw the Truck Series there last night. Me and Corey did at Darlington. And tomorrow, the Pro Series will take it on from there. We've got another little special thing coming up, of which I cannot make the official announcement yet. So be sure to keep an eye on our socials, because we do have a stream coming up sooner than Monday next week. Of course, Monday will be Sim 500, and we'll start the week out. Next week, it's Le Mans here, but to get to next week, we have to get through everything else first. But that's where we're going to be calling this broadcast out today. On behalf of Andre, my name is Brad. We've taken you start to finish. Be sure to join us next week, where we'll take you start to finish yet again. Good night.